What if I told you that front squatting could help your deadlift? Anecdotally, I've seen athletes, including myself, squat every single day for 2 straight years. And what that would mean is if we're gonna work out 5 days a week, we would front squat to start that workout. And let's say once or twice a week, we work to a heavy double, but then 3 times a week, we might just do 50, 60, 65% of our overall max, focusing on positions, focusing on keeping that upright trunk and really improving our back strength off the floor. And we would even use different variations. Let's say a pause front squat. Okay, so this is something that we refer to as auxiliary potentiation. Auxiliary potentiation can help us prime specific motor patterns. Okay, so if we're looking at a front squat and we're trying to use a pause from the bottom position, this is going to improve our trunk strength, and in turn it's going to help us again stay more upright with that stronger back, and that in turn is going to lead to potentially increasing our deadlift pull. And we might do this on a lower body power day, so day 1. Okay, we're going to get set, get down into the hole, get 1, 2, up fast, and then do another rep where we go 1, 2, up fast. And so something that you can do over 2, 3, 4 weeks is that on one day, you could go a little bit lighter, focusing on your speed and positions. Another day, you could do something like 6 singles, trying to push the max of that pause front squat, but slowly build into this. And I've got 4 more tips to help you get a strong as pull. But before we get into them, I'm giving away 1 GS Swole shirt to anyone watching this video. All you have to do is comment down below, make sure that all of your notifications are on with our sweet channel. You ring that notification bell, and then you show up to our YouTube live on Tuesday to find out if you won this sweet shirt. Now, let's fix your deadlift pull. In 2020, I had one goal. I wanted to deadlift 700 pounds. At that point in my entire life, I sort of had this lifetime goal. I wanted to deadlift 700 pounds for various reasons. I'm a strong person. I like to work hard. And I wanted to achieve this as a lifetime goal throughout my entire existence. But something sparked some urgency in my goal setting. I was informed that I had to get a gland removed from my neck right here, and that created that urgency. And I set that goal to try to pull 700 pounds. I set a specific date. I was having surgery on January 15th of 2021, so I knew I had to do that sometime in the end of 2020 to the beginning of 2021. And really what I was trying to prove was that I could establish that goal, I could have that urgency, and I could work as hard as possible to achieve that Lifetime Achievement Award internally, and that was the motivation that I was using to work towards that long-term goal. And I followed a Lulu split, okay? So I would do a lower body day, an upper body day, and then I added in an athlete day, and then I would do another lower body day, and then another upper body day. But what I wanted to focus on as well is the days that I would be deadlifting, I would work to a heavy max of a double, or I'd even push to a 5-rep max. And then I would do bigger drop sets, okay? So if I hit a heavy double, I might do 2 drop sets at a set of 10 to try and really strengthen my lower back, my hamstrings, and even that technical positioning. So on that first leg power day, I usually would do a competitive deadlift, and then I might follow that up with some accessories to improve different strength issues that I had or structural issues that I might have. On the second leg day, what I wanted to do was really focus on pulling variations. So I might alter that with a snatch grip deadlift, or even a trap bar pull, or even going with that sumo deadlift. And then I would cater that with some type of absolute strength movement like a front squat to increase my overall strength off the floor or wherever I would perceive there was a weakness. So that second key nugget is you have to set goals. So we have to start with defining our tests and understand what that long-term vision is going to be. And then when you look at that long-term vision, in my case, I want to deadlift 705 pounds or 700 pounds, I'm going to work backwards. What could get in the way? My twins were 2 years old, so we knew that that was going to be a struggle. We also knew that working 60+ hours a week, coaching all the time, that can also be a potential struggle. That could get in the way. So what would happen if there's issues around training? Okay, how could I still make up ground? And at the other end, if we're looking at a 300 kilo deadlift, that's about 661 pounds, okay? So then we're looking at adding about 40 pounds to that deadlift. Is it a reasonable time frame to do that in about 6 to 8 months? But just saying you need to set goals isn't all that you can do. You also have to have quantifiable goals, okay? How many days a week will I have to work out? That's one goal. How many reps do I have to successfully hit this week in training? What do I need to back squat or front squat or whatever else I need to focus on? Specific quantifiable goals. Even waking up every single morning and writing down those quantifiable goals in your planner so that you understand what you're doing for that specific day to work towards your long-term vision. Even looking at micro goals, okay? So if I would write down, what are my micro goals today? I wanna focus on some specific technical work. I wanna focus on really keeping that bar nice and tight off the floor. Even looking at what's a 1 rep goal for, let's say, a snatch grip deadlift, or let's say a pull off of a deficit. Another one might be, I wanna improve my 5 rep max. If I improve my 5 rep max, it's very likely I'm going to improve my single. Okay, if I improve my 10 rep max, I'm probably gonna improve my 5 rep max as well. So looking at that as micro goals is another way that you can keep picking off little direction towards that long-term vision. And then also establishing those big macro goals. That means having these big life visions and then trying to encompass those and embrace those big life visions so that they're more relatable to you guys, the audience watching these videos. And this even brings us into visualization and seeing everything happening, walking through during your meditation series, or even while you're doing size or focusing on recovery. Visualize this happening. Feel those goals being accomplished, but it always comes back to establishing micro goals, macro goals, and otherwise lifetime goals for what you can strive towards, and in this case, that monster pull. Enough of the foo-foo lifestyle stuff. Speed kills. You have to be athletic. You have to be explosive. So we're gonna give you a specific aspect that you can use inside of your training to keep pushing that pull. And you have to have a periodized program that's gonna help you develop that athletic ability, to help you develop that overall speed and explosiveness that can transfer to any physical goal. Just like we use inside of our app, Peak Strength. Plyometrics help build blast impulse. They help build a little bit more rigid ability to recruit high threshold motor units. They also help you build elasticity. So if we can master plyometrics and become more explosive and master that blast impulse that we mentioned, now we can recruit at a higher speed and in turn pull heavier weight. And fortunately, inside of Peak Strength, we program plyometrics and we even have athlete day so that you guys aren't just big, bulky power lifters, but we're actually becoming more athletic to increase our pulls. And you need to be athletic and fast when we're doing something like fast pulls. So we're gonna do some speed pulls. I'm gonna use my sweet garage strength straps here, available at garagestrength.com, and we can do a pull like this from a clean stance, okay? Or from a conventional stance. We're here, boom, okay? Come down, boom. And we can even do a little bit of a stretch shortening cycle where we focus on actually bouncing the weight. We're here, boom, boom, boom. We can alter those variations. So we altered that fast, clean pull. Then we led into that unbroken. Maybe we get into a snatch high pull or a snatch RDL where we're focusing on good hip extension and good speed. These lighter weight pulls will improve that blast impulse. It's gonna help us carry over the work, the speed work that we're doing from athlete day, and in turn, also improve that blast impulse. And this is stuff that we do inside of our app, Peak Strength. So if you guys need help with your programming, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, and you can download Peak Strength for 7 free days. And during those 7 free days, you can cancel at any time. But the worst thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna get 5 free workouts. Because freaks, at some point, you have to begin your journey to attain peak strength. So we gave you those pause front squats. We talked about setting your goals. We talked about improving your plyometric capability to handle that blast impulse. And then we even showed you those speed pulls and incorporating those speed pulls. Typically speed pulls are gonna be around 60 to 70% of your max. Those are all assets that you can start to use inside of your training. This next sweet nugget is gonna be even crazier, and a lot of you have never really thought about how this movement can increase your deadlift. So oftentimes when we're deadlifting, we end up hurting the same side of our lower back. Let's say if you're right leg dominant, you'll typically hurt the left side of your lower back. And this can lead to some type of technical efficiency. This can lead to some type of poor mechanics. So we need to come up with an exercise that's gonna help improve our priming and even get us in position where we have a similar shin angle to when we're pulling off the floor. And I'll actually use single leg squats for auxiliary potentiation. So it's taking a movement that's a little different from that competitive movement that we have a goal towards and using it to prime specific areas. And in this case, the posterior chain. Okay, so if we're gonna use a single leg squat, I actually will use this before I do some type of speed work. Okay, so if I'm on, let's say, a hypertrophy day or even an impulse day, I might do single leg squats for 5 triples on each leg. If I do 5 triples on each leg, I work up to a decent 3-rep max, or maybe 90% of my perceived 3-rep max. Then I'm gonna head over and start to do specific pulling work. So using that single leg squat to wake up your glutes, to wake up your hamstrings, to wake up your lower back, get a little bit more of a chest lean forward to help engage those glutes a little bit more, drive through those heels as you're coming upright, and even focus on the shin angle, okay? These are all aspects that are phenomenal with the single leg squat being done before we actually do our deadlifts. And of course, you can get this incredible single leg roller and pad at garagestrength.com. Why do CrossFitters bounce deadlifts off the floor? Why does every internet commenter talk smack when they see people bounce weights off the floor? The floor is our friend, and here's why. We've got to have a good mindset when we're getting into these heavy lifts, and we even need to focus on a nice, strong, eccentric patterning while we're learning how to use the floor. For starters, we've got to push into the floor, and I like to think about when I'm pulling off the floor, okay? I actually want to think about rotating my feet out. All right, so if I'm gonna be setting up for a deadlift, I'll go a little bit wider here, and I wanna think about turning my feet out, and I'm gonna drive my chest up and almost fall back a hair when I have a slightly rounded back. So I'm gonna come back, and I wanna try and grab my toes into the floor. Boom, okay, and that's gonna help me understand how to use the floor when I'm pushing, but actually use the floor. Now, one thing that I like to do is actually have a top-down deadlift. This is gonna be like a plyometric for deadlifts. It's gonna be very similar to pad bench, even similar to using bands to a point. But one of the big factors here is that we're gonna get a nice stretch shortening cycle, and we're gonna time that position right off the floor. So we can overload that eccentric, walk it out, feel that, light up our hamstrings, light up our posterior chain, feel our push into the floor through our feet, and then catch that stretch shortening cycle off the floor. One of the big factors is if you struggle with the lockout, this can really help you. I've even seen athletes hit their deadlift PR for 2 to 3 reps from that top-down position, and then in turn, they can hit that as a single later on because they've learned how that feels from below the knee back up to that lockout position using that stretch shortening cycle. And while you're listening to my favorite song from Ghostface, Black Tequila, you can think about lowering nice and slow. So let's say you go 5, 6 seconds on the eccentric and then a nice little bounce off the floor, and really think about driving those hips through, driving and extending the knees as you sort of fall back just a little bit. This is gonna potentiate and improve any positional areas that we have that are potential weaknesses, okay? So I even like to think about, if I'm weak below the knee, I wanna do a slower eccentric below the knee. If I'm weak from the knee to the lockout, I'll do a slower eccentric from the knee to the lockout. But that little bounce is gonna help get us out of those positions and then drive through and ultimately lead to those increased strength gains. So write down all of your goals and then figure out where you can implement these little nuggets into your training. And if you need help with your training, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, and download Peak Strength today. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.